Okay. Okay, so here we are. We're ready to go. I'm with Povo Community for Justice, and here with two wonderful sisters here. I think we'll have to straighten our date up on the date because we got the date mixed up. It's like well, it is. She's showing the third, so I think it's working just fine. So we have an attorney, Sister Tekla. Could you pronounce your name for
Oh,
me,
sure.
please?
It's Nanina Takla.
Praise God. And would you pronounce your name, please?
I'm Reverend Dr. Freddie Jackson.
Praise God. So I'm very, very happy to have these two wonderful ladies here. And this wonderful attorney here is to talk to you people out there in TV land regarding various things that we all are having problems with, faced with foreclosures and other things. And I was going to do a live show, but we're going to do a pre-recorded show. That's what's taking place right now. And we have the Dr. Jackson sitting next to her that's familiar with the some foreclosure or with the organization she's with. So they'll be able to do some Q&A, and I'm looking forward to enjoying them both. And maybe I might kick in and maybe I might not kick in because, you know, my shows are pretty wild. So I'll probably just sit here and keep my mouth closed and listen to these two wonderful ladies try and help you people out there in TV land help yourself. So pay attention, and prayerfully all this information will be salubrious to all you people out there about to lose your property or whatever's going on. So I'll turn it over to both of you ladies.
Well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Do you want to?
It's really a pleasure to be here today and to meet you, a wonderful lady that you seem to have a lot of energy and you seem to be very concerned for people that are going through tragedies with their homes and with their property. And I'm a part of We Are Oregon and Economic Fairness. And we are really interested, those organizations, in helping people with problems that when they've been mistreated by the larger banks or by lending companies that have not been honest. They've been fraudful, they've been scammy, and they've targeted the elderly and the poor, the two groups least able to pay for things. And they came up with a lot of refi programs that sounded really great at 2%, but they didn't tell the people about that balloon payment that was coming up in a couple of years. And that's called fraud.
You talked about a bunch of different types of loans that people got
Yes.
pretty much trapped into.
Right, predatory, yes.
Yeah, so what ones where the payments started off really low and
Yes.
stayed low for a couple of years
Yes.
and then all of a sudden jumped.
Yes.
Or the worst ones are what we call negative amortization loans or negative neg-am, I think.
Uh-huh.
And those are ones where even though you're paying on the loan each month, the amount that you owe actually goes up.
Oh my gosh.
Because you're not paying off the interest, you're paying less than the interest on the loan.
Oh, jeez. Wow.
Yeah, so
that is horrible. Do people they don't really know that.
no, I don't think people realize that. There's sort of two things. One is people don't really realize how bad the loan is or that the
Yes.
loan's going to change. And the other thing is, you know, until about 2008, everyone kind of bought in this idea that, you know, real estate was always going to go up. So
Right.
they would tell people, you know, take this loan, you'll have really low payments for a couple years. And then when the payments are supposed to go up, you can just refinance. And then that way you'll pay off the loan.
I think that's what they were told too.
Yeah.
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 And they knew when they were talking to the people that that was not what was going to happen, and the people didn't realize that, and a lot of people have been trapped. This used to be called the American dream, owning your own home, a piece of land, but today it's become America's nightmare. And I'm real sad about that because I've been caught in a situation along with my other members of We Are Oregon. A lot of people have been forced from their homes because of foreclosures that were not done officially and not done rightfully. There is a home that's being occupied by a security guard right now, and they tell me for the several months that he's been there, it has cost the city of Oregon, the state of Oregon, the city of Portland, close to $10,000. So rather than let the people stay in their own homes and occupy it and pay on the loans and take whatever the payments that they could make, they'd rather do that and leave the people homeless. It doesn't make any sense.
It doesn't make any sense. I mean, and there's a lot. Some of it is because just they're doing things. They're just doing things that are
Making
wrong.
money, yes.
Focuses on making money.
Making money.
And the other problem is that they're just not efficient. I mean, they're just so they're not set up to actually help people who fall into trouble. One of the most important things is for people to try and get help as soon as possible.
Yes.
And when they're trying to get help, you're much better off going to a housing counseling agency, one of the HUD certified ones that are free. And those people really know what they're doing.
Yes.
They can help you get your paperwork together. They can
Right.
talk to the loan company for you. They can really save you a lot of aggravation. And fortunately, there's a whole lot less of this now, but back a couple of years ago, we used to see a lot of these foreclosure rescue scams or these loan
They're
modifications.
still out there.
Still out there. I
Yeah.
haven't seen as
They
much
make
of
the
them.
calls and they say, your name came up. Are you near foreclosure? We just need 3,500, and the lawyer will, or we just need 5,500. But let me tell you, African American Home Alliance is a wonderful program at 20th off of Sandy. There's a counselor there. Her name is Carol Berger. She is probably the best counselor in this whole area. I would tell anybody, if you're having any problems with your property at all, please go see Carol Berger. And she is a wonderful person. That program is open for all people, even though it's called African American. It's for all people that are having difficulty. And she is a kind, wonderful, thorough, and very knowledgeable about what she's doing. She'll talk to your loan company in front of your face, your mortgage company. She'll get their names, their ID. She will follow through, and she works with the Department of Justice, and she is a really wonderful lady. She works very hard for you. No, and it's free, not a penny.
And that's I've spoken with Carol a couple times. I haven't met her yet, but yeah, she's an excellent counselor.
She's wonderful.
And the important thing is it's free. You should be
Yes.
able to get that help without paying for it.
Exactly.
Those scams that you were talking about where they call and it's usually somewhere between $3,000 and $5,000 that they
Exactly.
keep asking you for.
Right.
And that's just illegal. They're not supposed to ask for money up front, and the kind of help that they give you is going to be worse than the help that you would get from somebody like Carol Berger.
That's correct.
And she's there to help you for free. So yeah, that's a really important point. It's if you're falling behind, it's really important to try to get to a housing counselor as soon as you can, and don't wait until things go too far down the road. Especially now, because in Oregon they've started doing judicial foreclosures, and what those are is when the banks sue you to foreclose on your house. Until about this summer, all the foreclosures in Oregon were non-judicial, and that's where they started to run into a lot of problems, because it started to come out that they were doing things incorrectly for the non-judicial process, and they weren't actually following Oregon law. And rather than follow Oregon law and do what they were supposed to do, banks have just turned around and started going through this different process to do foreclosures, which is, again, it's in a lot of ways, in some ways it's good, because now the banks have to go through the court in order to get the foreclosure done. And in theory, you could get more oversight, and if they're doing something wrong, you have your chance to go to court and point out that they're doing something wrong. But the two problems are, one, that sort of thing is really, really hard to do, unfortunately, without a lawyer.
Yes.
There are a lot of people who try it, and I think it's something that's really hard to succeed on without having a lawyer help you. And the other thing is you have a lot less time to react. If you get served with a foreclosure complaint, you only have 30 days to respond to it. And if you don't respond to it within 30 days, they can go ahead and get the court to give them what's called a default judgment. And basically that's the court saying,
You have to leave.
well, not yet. You still have some time after that, but it's the court saying that, basically saying, homeowner, you had your chance to come in here and protest. We gave you 30 days. If you didn't do it within 30 days,
Too bad.
exactly, too bad. We're going to go ahead and finish off the foreclosure and let the bank go forward with it. And once they get that judgment in foreclosure, it's really hard to stop it. So, if you get served with a foreclosure complaint, you need to go to, you still should go to a foreclosure, a housing counselor, but you can't ignore it. You have to react
You have to
really
do
quickly.
something, yes.
Yeah, and if you can't afford a lawyer, the legal aid, they got a bunch of money. Well, they got some money from the state to do a foreclosure help, essentially. So if you call the legal aid number, which unfortunately I don't know off the top of my head, but if you call legal aid, they should be able to help you get an attorney if you can't afford one, if you cannot afford one. Even if you don't traditionally qualify for legal aid, they can help people with a little more income. So, that's definitely the first place to start. And then if you can't get a lawyer through legal aid, then you probably want to try to look and see if you can afford a private attorney. I'm not saying you can't do it by yourself, but it's going to be extremely difficult. And the other really big problem is if you get served with a foreclosure complaint, and you haven't started a modification, or even if you've started a modification, it's gonna, they get the judgment, that might stop you from being able to go ahead and get your modification. Once they get the judgment, the bank is probably going to tell you that it's too late.
But I think a lot of the things have happened to people when they were encouraged to refi a home that was almost paid for. What that's about, I'm not sure. But a lady that comes to mind, her name is Mrs. Steele. She lives in the Northeast, and she's elderly. And I think somebody said she refied her house with a predatory lender. And now she's having difficulty making her payments, and they're trying to foreclose on her. She's a senior citizen, and I can't see how, if the electric company won't even turn your electricity off if you have a baby or an old elderly person that's living in the home that has problems. But they don't have a problem with putting you in the street, in the cold, in the winter, and there's no issue. I don't understand that.
And that's a great point. It's, I don't know, maybe it goes to show how strong banks are.
They're pretty strong. Especially 5 of them, yes.
Yeah, no, but you're right. I mean, you have more protection if if the utility company is threatening to shut you off,
Yes.
than you do.
Getting kicked out of your home.
Exactly.
It's
I mean,
ridiculous.
You've got
really
your
is.
you've got your 30 days to respond, and then you're out. But I think what happened with Miss Steele is something that actually I saw a lot of. Before I came to Oregon, I was in Philadelphia, and in Philadelphia, there's a lot of low-income people who actually own their own homes, whether because they inherited it or what.
Right.
And what people do is they get talked into either financing or refinancing. They own a home free and clear.
Yes.
They get talked into taking out a loan, and it can be just for a little amount. And then when they
Yes.
have struggle making the payments, they're told, well, just take out another loan and you'll get all this cash, and with that cash you can make payments. But that just doesn't work
It
because
doesn't work.
you're never getting enough cash to pay off the loan
Never.
itself.
No,
Never. It
never.
doesn't work like that.
Right.
And that cycle of going and refinancing for bigger amounts
It's a
each
trap.
time. It's a trap.
It
It's
is.
called equity stripping. It's you had something that you owned that had some value,
And now it has none.
and it has none, and
Yep.
and you're in danger of losing it.
That's true.
Okay, I wanted to make a reference to something that's going on with me, and that's what I'd like to speak on.
All right.
What's happening with me is that they're trying to do what kind of foreclosure was that you speaking about? Where they sue you? What was it
Yep,
called?
it's a judicial foreclosure.
Judicial foreclosure, and I'm putting up here on my Elmo, is that I was faced with a judicial foreclosure, and I was going to speak on it on my next show, but I'll speak on it right now, make some reference to. I've been trying to get all kind of help from everybody, but everybody seems not to be on top of what I'm trying to do. So what I did, because I only have 30 days, and then I got to reading the documents to find out that they didn't formally serve me the paperwork. They didn't formally serve me in the proper way. They didn't do what they call is Rule 7D, 2D, and which is where you got to get a certificate of mailing. They never did a certificate of mailing to me, so they just sent me something through the mail that came through my mail slot, but I wrote the date on the paper or on the information that they gave me. So I'm faced with what kind of game are these people playing? They've always been trying to beat me out of my property. Had no intention. They gave me a predatory loan a long time ago. Years ago, they gave me a predatory loan. That was when I was dealing with Millennium. And then as time went on, no matter what I did, I couldn't get caught up. My probation put me in jail illegally for 60 days, thinking that if, most black folks stay around about a month or so behind, but I wasn't. I'm always up to date on what I'm paying. And so what I was trying to do is to bring the attention to that. Well, can't you give me a modification? I'm paying you people $1,500 a month. And can I? So I'm able to drop it down to a level that I can afford to pay with the income that I'm generating. But they were like just slow playing me. So they sent me to India to do the paperwork, and never in India, never in Uruguay would anybody ever be clear about what's getting accomplished. They would say, oh, 90 days had passed and the paperwork hadn't been completed. And this went on for around about close to 3 years. And then when they had a chance to try and close me down, they went for it. And then they tried to act like, well, you are late on your payment, and so we're not accepting no more money from you, and we're going to go into foreclosure on you. But they did it all illegal, they did it all wrong, and I know they had. But people are trying to save face because at first they gave permission to send the payment, now we're sending it through a MoneyGram, so they would have gotten the money at a certain time. But they try to act like they hadn't gotten it, and they try to convince the African American program that they were right and I was wrong. They try to do all those little slip shot type things, and so I was waiting to say, well, I'll get served, and then I'll go after them. And then when I got served, I tried to get with various attorneys to say, hey, I'm after these evil people. And so just recently, because I just couldn't afford to wait any longer, so I went and filed some papers myself, because I've been going to court and filing papers for years. I've been in prison twice illegally, so I'm usually just filing things just to let the people know that, look, I'm not no fool or nothing. And I was going to let myself wait till the 30 days pass or expire, even though they don't have no actual documentation, to my knowledge, that the specific date, except for they know after 30 days and sell your house on the courthouse stairs. But then when you serve them the papers looking like December, and that would already put me past 30 days. But they're telling me when I got the papers, that I have 30 days from that date, and I'm saying, well, there's some chicanery going on there. So I just, this week, which along with some other legal work that I did, I filed with the Circuit Court of Oregon at Multnomah County, and it's the plaintiff is U.S. Bank, because that's the one that's going after me, and I'm the defendant. So I wrote and let them know that I don't feel like I wasn't properly served, and I'm going after them for their bad behavior. And that was the issues that I had made, and that's where I'm coming from. So they got that, and that's in the record. So I mailed that to them, and I mailed it to the U.S. Bank to let them know what's going on. And then I sent a deal requesting a judge's order to, I want you people out there in TV land to pay attention to that. It's something as simple as that. A judge's order them that if they didn't do the process correctly, that they're gonna make them do it over again. And that'll buy me some time, because I know these people are going after me, looking at me straight face, saying, hey, we can do some more modifications. But the whole thing about it, they want you to be making thousands of dollars, which I don't have. And then they want my children, everybody, they don't care where the money comes from, just string me out as far as they can until you get tired of paying. And then they'll tell you, well, why don't you take a short loan, or whatever they call it, short sale. And I'm not with that. I had my property over 37 years. I'm not going to let these people beat me out of it. And I'm showing you people these things. And then when a judge signs the order, because the information not right, then I wrote an affidavit making it very, very clear about the game that I feel like I'm being put under. And so I signed all that, and I wrote all that, and I put my name down there. And it's something as simple as a piece of pencil and paper that you'll sign and put a date on it and keep going. And so we'll be meeting face to face. And then I showed them, said where they sent me an envelope, and that's the one that I made clear that I got the envelope 2/6/2013 at 2 in the afternoon. That's when I came to my home, and I found it laying on the floor. And so I'm trying to say, but you gave me this bogus document, and then you people are trying to act like I'd made some mistakes or did something wrong, and all this stuff is tainted. And I sent an Exhibit B to show that they're doing something wrong, and I know in my mind, because I read it and I believe in them the way I think. And then I sent them the another deal saying another document that I sent was a proof of service. So you always got to make sure you're sending people a proof of service. Then you with Multnomah Courthouse, I dropped it in a box at Multnomah Courthouse, and then I sent another one to the attorneys that are trying to help sue me. So the thing about it, once the fight starts, or once the confrontation starts, you got to play to win, and you can't be afraid. So you can't be just sitting there rubbing your head and woes me, or getting yourself a drink or drugs or whatever you're doing, or preparing to where you're going to move next. Your property, you have it. And I used to talk to a lot of people in the past about, look, when they were going to use a funeral home, I said, let's get in it and let's deal with it legally. Because I'll read and I'll scan, and God will just bless me to see things that most people don't see or do see, but can't act on it at that moment. So I'm just saying that play to win and don't you be afraid. But when they're speaking about when this attorney Nanina made it, say it again, Ms. Teckler.
Nanina.
Yes,
I like
Nanina,
that better.
Yes, Nanina made it very clear that people just can't just do any old kind of way. And she's here conveying to all you people out there in TV land is not to be afraid. Just relax, take it easy, but you got to pay absolute attention to what's going on. What's going on with you, because now they realize that they're going to try and get more formal by going to a court and asking for sue you for the property. And if you mess around and twiddle around, you'll lose the property on a default, even if you get a modification. Isn't that something like what you're saying, sister?
Yeah, that's something. It's what they call a dual tracking.
Okay, gotcha.
Which is where they say that they're working on you, working with you for a modification, but they go ahead with the foreclosure process anyway, and that's what you got to watch out for, especially since if they're doing the route of taking you to court, you just have so much less time to react, and you can even call the people that you're trying to work with on the modification. And if you actually get somebody on the line from the bank, they'll probably tell you, oh well, don't worry about that complaint. I've looked in the computer and there's no sale scheduled, so don't worry about it. We're still looking at your modification or
Worry.
Yeah, worry, exactly.
Worry.
Because that's just not how it works. I mean, yeah, there's no sale scheduled yet, but that's because they don't schedule the sale until after they've gotten the judgment in the court case, and they can get that judgment within about 30 days. Once they have that judgment, they can schedule that sale within another 30 days or so. It's not like it was back with the non-judicial foreclosures and the trustee sales. With that process, you'd get the notice of the sale, and that sale was at least 3 months ahead. This one, they don't always act as fast as they could, but this could go within a couple months. You get served. If you don't do anything, and after 30 days, they can go ahead and have the sheriff schedule the sale. And responding is good. I mean, if you can get an attorney to help you, that's better. I mean, Cecil really knows his way around the legal system, so he was able to turn in a pretty sophisticated looking product. Were you able to get a waiver on the filing fee, or?
No, I didn't ask for a waiver on the filing fee. I just submitted it.
Okay, there's a chance that they're probably gonna. Did you handed it to the clerk at the courthouse?
No, I put it in the box at the courthouse. I should have talked to the clerk.
Well, this is what I'm afraid of. Is I think they're gonna bounce that.
Okay, what I'll do is I'll go talk to the clerk and I'll resubmit again.
Yeah, resubmit and make sure to ask for the waiver. If you don't ask for a waiver for the filing fee, and you can only get that if you're pretty low income.
Right.
One of the other problems is responding to that thing is it's $505 is the filing fee. And if people had that kind of money sitting around, they wouldn't be in the trouble that they're in. So that's another concern. If you are low income, if you can't afford the filing fee, when you're putting in the paperwork, ask the clerk for the paperwork to ask for a fee waiver. And even if you don't qualify for the waiver, I think they can help you, and you don't have to pay it all up front. They can let you pay it out or defer until the end of the case or whatever to pay. But
That's correct.
And I appreciate you bringing that to my attention, because that is a very, very important information there, is that you got to get the waiver. And that's a move that I did miss, and I've been fighting these people for the longest in courts, and I'm glad you mentioned it. But I'll be there Monday on the 4th. And making sure that I resubmit it again, asking for the waiver, because I've already submitted it to the people that the U.S. Bank, and I'm going to submit it, and it says the U.S. Bank N.A. and then E.T.A.L., which means all others. So you're putting everybody on notice for what you're trying to accomplish, and that's what you're trying to do. And I can't get it up on green screen, so that's fine. That's fine. So what you're trying to do, so what you need to do is get that waiver. And if you're on food stamps or any kind of other thing that show that you're low income, you'll automatically be granted the waiver, and then they'll submit that with your paperwork. And then if you need to look at anything or make copies or documents, you'll be able to do that because you have the paperwork showing that you're capable of doing that. very, very, very important that you take care of that business, and very, very important that you try and save your property. Monday I'll be there early, and the paper's already sent. So if I have to resubmit it, I'll still get it done before the 6th, because it's just a big old scam people are doing. They're trying to beat you out of this home. I live in an area where property is going for $800,000, $400,000 and $500,000. So what they're looking like, make this little phony baloney loan to me, hoping that I'd never be able to pay it back, and then walk the dog on me. And I'm not going for that. And I don't want none of you people out there in TV land to go for that. But Sister Nina, I greatly appreciate you making that clear that you got to, because I was there and I said there's something else I need to do. That was it. Because when I came out of prison, you don't have nothing but an Oregon food stamp card or an Oregon Trail card, and that's sufficient enough. Or if you got a certain amount of money that you're making, if you're on a set income and it's not sufficient, that's sufficient enough. It just was a mismove. That those moves got to be covered, or else they would win by default if I sat there and went to sleep thinking all good and hood, and I'd be laying out there in Unthank Park. Looking like a daggone fool. So I greatly appreciate having you on the show, sister. And there's other sisters will be on my live show later on today. And Nina, I don't know how much time we got left, brother. How much time we got left, brother? And I'll find out how much more time we have left out there in TV land. And Nina, I would love to have you back in the future to help people deal. We got about 3 minutes? Yes. Oh, that's fine. 13 minutes? Okay, great.
Help 13.
But I'd like to interject, if I might. I'm dealing with the Bank of America, and like I said, I went to Carol Berger. She's a housing counselor. I also talked to people at HUD. But one of the things I do want to say is, do not ever throw those papers away. Even if they're sending you papers over and over, the wrong papers, just keep them, because you'll never know when those papers are needed for whatever. And I have been...
If I can interrupt 1 second. The other
ahead.
thing is, a lot of people don't think of this, but try to keep the envelopes too, especially
Yes.
if they have a postmark on it.
Absolutely.
Or if they don't have a postmark, do what Cecil did and just write the date that you received it.
Exactly.
And that way, that helps you keep track of when you got it. Because they'll always, once you get something from them, you'll look at the date, and it's usually like a week, 2 weeks before you actually receive it. So you can't go by the date on the letter or whatever you
Right.
get from them. If you got a postmark, do that, or just write down when you actually receive it.
Amen.
I'm
That's
sorry.
really true. That's
Yes,
okay.
very
But
important.
anyway, you were right about the dual track. I kept getting letters that I was in default, $18,000. They messed up my daughter's credit and my credit, okay? My whole thing is I wanted a modification to lower the payment so that I could make the payment with my own income. I don't have a lot. I'm a senior citizen, so I have a fixed income. And they said that was no problem. They would do that. Well, at any rate, I was receiving both lines of communication at the same time, which is pretty frustrating and upsetting. So I was given several reps. Some of them, they had no idea what they were talking about, and some of them, it was like 9 or 10 within a year. That's just too many people. So for the last couple of months, I have a rep now that he says he'll be with me to the end, and I received a letter postmarked the 18th of February, and my first permanent modification payment was due on the 1st, and I made the payment. And let me give you a clue. Always make it with a check. Write the check number down, the date, the person you're talking to, and make sure that you get a confirmation number. Because a lot of these banks are so scandalous, they'll get your money, they'll say they lost it, it never came, and most of us can't keep paying over and over, and that way they get you in default when you've done everything you could. So be sure to talk to a person live on phone and pay by check or something so that you can get a confirmation number that they've received your money on the 1st, because that's very important to keep your file clear. So I have 12 payments to make at the lower modification payment price, and I'm really happy about that. I'm thrilled. But my whole thing is because I'm dealing with a bank that has been unscrupulous in the past. I can't really rely on them being trustworthy right now with me. So I am very unsure of the circumstances that they're talking about. I had to run like a rat on a treadmill to get a piece of paper notified, documented, signed. Me and my daughter, she's on the East Coast, had to send it all in within 10 days. Okay? That was just the bottom line. Now, they had those papers ever since the 20th of December. They were due on the 24th, Christmas Eve. Can you believe that? They were there, and they received it. I tracked it with FedEx. It got there on the 24th, and they've had those papers signed and sealed. They haven't put their signature on any of those papers yet, so that I will know I have a permanent modification. All I have now is somebody writing something on a piece of paper. I don't have any of those documents that they need to sign and give back to me for my files, and I don't have any of the papers that my daughter and I signed. So I'm still unsure about Bank of America.
And yeah, you should definitely be unsure of Bank of America because
Yes.
they mess up all the time. But you raised a bunch of really good points. One is, if you don't have a checking account, if you're used to paying by money order or something else, you know, that could work as well. If you're mailing it, though, it probably makes sense to spend that extra money to get a certificate of mailing and
Yes,
then
proof that it was mailed.
proof that it was mailed, and then
Yes.
even if you can, spend a little extra to get that return receipt postcard, so
Yes.
that
You have something.
because so you have something, and because especially when you mail it in, the date that they receive it isn't always the date that they're going to credit it to you because they have their own little processing thing. So you should be able to say, no, I know you received it on this date, and they lose those checks all the time too. So the more proof you can to back yourself up. And the other thing is while you're dealing with them for modification, just keep really good notes. And if you can just keep them all in one notebook or something and put down the date, who you talked to, if you can get a name from it, and what you talked about.
Exactly.
And because if they do screw up, and there's a good chance they will, and you find yourself, heaven forbid, at the end trying to fight off a foreclosure, if you can show that you were doing everything, that you kept calling them and talking to them, and you sent the payments in when you were supposed to, and did all that, then you've got a much better chance of keeping them from actually going through with a foreclosure.
Yes.
One of the good things about them doing judicial foreclosures is that it's what we call an equitable process, and equitable kind of means what it sounds like, which is it's got to be fair. So even if you don't have a great technical legal defense, if you were working with them and trying to get a modification and they just jerked you around, or they stopped accepting your payments for some reason, or as you were saying, you send in your payments but you never got proof back, and then after you send in 12 payments, all of a sudden they decided they've never heard of you.
Absolutely. It's not fair.
Then being able to prove it, having proof that you sent in all
Absolutely.
your payments, you can make a defense to the foreclosure that it's not fair, that they didn't treat you fairly, and you should, therefore they shouldn't be able to foreclose.
Absolutely.
And so that's another thing. If you get served with a foreclosure, you're trying to work on a loan modification, or even if that foreclosure complaint is what inspires you to go down and talk to a housing counselor, you can still file an answer. Again, way better if you can get a lawyer to help you, but I understand that, unfortunately, it's hard to find a lawyer. It's hard to find a lawyer who can help you for free or for very little money. Contingency. But you can still put in an answer that says, they shouldn't be able to foreclose because I'm trying to get a loan modification, or they shouldn't be able to foreclose because I had a loan modification and then they stopped accepting my payments. Putting in an answer like that is going to really slow down the process, and hopefully will get you a chance to get that mod to go through the process. And if they don't deal with you fairly, then worst comes to worst, you put it in front of the judge. You show the judge what you tried to do, what you were doing, and how they didn't help you at all. And in those kind of instances, having really good notes helps. Even if the judge won't take the notes into evidence, you can use those notes to go back and say, when you explain to the judge, if you give somebody specific dates and specific things that you did, that always sounds a lot more credible to a judge than, if they can tell that you're working off good notes, that you've been very careful in your record keeping. That's just going to make you look better, because the other side is always going to say, oh, we never received it. We tried to call them multiple times, but they never responded to us. We were reaching out to them. So that's why you need to have your good notes and your careful information.
Absolutely.
Okay, so
Wonderful.
now we're reaching a point to we're about to close, because I'm going to have this other sister over here on the show, and she's going to be speaking in a little bit. But I've got a few minutes to start my other show, which starts at 3 o'clock, and I have to be set up and ready to go by 3 to be live on television. But I greatly appreciate you, Attorney Nanine. I'm so happy that you came onto my show and bring more light to the people out there in TV land to understand what they're faced with. I appreciate you being here, Dr. Jackson, because
Thank
you are trying to air and let the people know, bring out the flaws in the system and trying to let people
Yes.
know that she's a victim of this whole different day, but she's dealing with Bank of America.
Yes.
But I greatly appreciate you, Sister Attorney Tekla, right?
Yeah.
That you're here and that you've been out here helping people help themselves to better understand it. So you people, I'm looking forward to getting a bunch of attorneys prayerfully that'll be on the show that's willing to help you help yourself, that aren't
Amen.
just bogged down with greed, but bogged down with the concern for your well-being.
Yes.
And again, that's it. So
Thank
we can
you.
roll the credits, and we're ready to roll out.
Thank you. It's nice
Thank
to be
you.
here.
Yeah.